Hey guys, I'm Chris Buck and a very warm welcome to Friday Fretworks. This week I'm going to be showing you the thought process and the actual build process behind putting together a relatively small pedalboard for a one-off gig I have coming up at the end of the month. To give you some insight into the gig, should you be interested, it's on the 29th of December at the Robin 2 in Bilston, near Wolverhampton in the UK, and it is a Cozy Powell tribute night. Cozy Powell, if you're not familiar, being an incredible British drummer, who just played with a whole host of incredible musicians and bands throughout the 80s, 70s, 80s and 90s. Whitesnake, Black Sabbath, Brian May Band, Rainbow, Jeff Beck Group, pretty much you name them, Cozy played with them and left his mark. Unfortunately not with us anymore, but Bob Richards, the drummer in Buck and Evans, massive Cozy fan, actually owns one of Cozy's kits from the Whitesnake days, is putting on this evening with a whole host of incredible musicians that either knew Cozy, played with Cozy, or are admirers of his work and music and just want to get together to celebrate his life. The part of the evening I'm actually playing in is the Whitesnake Band, with Nathan James from Inglorious and War of the Worlds on lead vocals, Neil Murray from Whitesnake on bass, Richard Bailey from Whitesnake on keys, Bob Richards on drums, myself on guitar, and Esther Rowley on backing vocals. It's going to be a great night, really looking forward to it. So, as I said, I needed to put together a small pedalboard for this gig and was just about to sit down and do it for rehearsal tomorrow, but thought it would make for an interesting video just to show you some of, as I said, the build process, but more interestingly, the thought process behind each pedal and what I'm trying to recreate. The era of Whitesnake that we're focusing on very much kind of centers around the 70s and early 80s. Think, kind of Live in the Heart of the City through to Saints and Sinners. So not a whole lot of gain, but hopefully you'll see my pedal choices and just give you a better insight into what I'm choosing and why. Let's take it away. So, first things first, we have the pedalboard, which for this gig I'm going to be using my trusty Pedal Train Mini. Why, I guess, I'm using a small pedalboard is the obvious question, and the answer is, to be honest, this is not my gig. There's going to be a lot of bands and a lot of musicians on stage that evening, and as much as my normal Buck and Evans board would easily cover this show, I don't want to be, Billy Big Bollocks turning up with the huge pedalboard, spreading myself out across the stage, as you can quite happily do if it's your own gig, and just making a bit of a nuisance of myself. So it's a little bit more respectful and just a little bit more common sense, to be honest. Less stuff to carry and less stuff to worry about on a pretty busy evening if I just use a small pedalboard. So first things first, in terms of pedal choice, the ubiquitous TC Electronic, should the camera want to focus, Polytune. I don't know what there is to say about a Polytune really, just a great, standard tuner. True bypass as well, which on a board this small, I guess is an advantage maybe, who knows. So we're going to stick this as pretty much as tight to the edge of the board as we can get it, just because I've got a feeling it's going to be pretty tight. I'll tell you what, just to give ourselves an idea how much work we have, or space we have to play with, do the same with this. Get that about as tight to that side as possible. Again, the ubiquitous Pedal Power 2 being the power of choice here. I was initially thinking about maybe using the Pedal Train Volto, but to be honest, it's a little bit old, it's a little bit decrepit, and it doesn't really hold its charge for all that long. And again, I'm not sure how long this is going to be on stage for, how long it's likely to be turned on, so power is just probably the safer option, to be honest. First choice of pedal that's a little bit more exciting than a tuner. We're going to be using the Origin Revival Drive. Obviously, I did a video on this a couple of months ago. Just a fantastically versatile pedal that, to be honest, does scare people a little bit for the fact that it has so many controls on it. But, as I said in the video I did, you can pretty much cut that in half straight away because it's just two-sided overdrive. So, the way I'm going to use this, I'm going to be using the valve rectifier side. I'll get a close-up of the exact settings I'm going to be using once I've dialed it in. Reason being, it does that low gain territory very, very nicely. You don't necessarily associate 70s Whitesnake, at least, with a lot of gain, and that is where this is going to come in. Obviously, we've got the silicon side as well, which may well be used as a higher gain kind of, kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure yet, but again, that's where this pedal is going to come in a little bit. So let's get this wired. Thank goodness for top mounted jacks, we're going to be able to get this a little bit tighter here. That's a whole discussion in itself, the merits of top mounted versus side mounted jacks. Cool little thing about the pedal train as well, at least these particular older models, is this little recess area down here where you can actually just tuck in the lead or the power leads or whatever, you know, happens to be there, just to kind of keep things nice and neat and nice and tight. So the next choice of pedal is going to be another one I've done a video on recently. It is the Fender Full Moon Distortion. Reason being, as much as I've got a hell of a lot of gain sounds covered in that, this does those high gain sounds very, very nicely. And as I said, there's not a load of high gain sounds with 70s Whitesnake at least. 80s Whitesnake would be a different story entirely with Vi and all that stuff. But there are a couple of moments to set where it's going to be nice just to push it over the top and have a little bit more gain on tap. And as much as that may well be able to handle this, in the video I did with this, it's a very, very nice sounding pedal. Probably not going to use the boost pedal, or the boost side of it rather, because we have an actual boost pedal. But again, let's get this wired up. Get that as tight to the revival drive as we can. Tuck the jack leads out of the way down there. Cool, there we go. As I said, probably not going to be using the boost side, which is where this comes in. Probably not seen it on my channel before. Let's try and get the camera to focus. Would be very nice. There we go. The Engager Boost by Fender. Reason I'm picking this over other boost pedals is I'm more than likely not going to be using my amp on the evening. Just because, you know, provided backline, all that stuff, it's going to be a little bit of a mess. So I find the fact that this has essentially an EQ pedal built into it incredibly handy, and is going to come just hopefully and useful on the night to kind of really just fine tune that kind of solo sound, I guess. Again, in terms of why I'm using an actual boost pedal, just think it's going to be more versatile than the boost in there, and in situations such as the gig coming up at the end of the month now, it's so many musicians, so many different bands, you know, it's just going to be a little bit of a mess. And if you can really kind of control your own solo sound and how much louder you make yourself come solos, it's just going to take the pressure and the worry out of that inevitable conversation at the end of the evening when someone comes up to you and goes, yeah, it was great, but I couldn't bloody hear you. So, boost pedal, pretty straight ahead. That is going to be tucked in next to Full Moon. So let's see if we can get away. Good little trick, if we move that up very slightly, we'll be able to tuck the jack lead actually under the other one, giving us a little bit more space. And there you have it, pretty much. Get the square-ended jack lead in there out to the amp. But in terms of sound, that's pretty much it. Let's get wired for power very quickly. So there you go. There you have it. It's pretty versatile, pretty effective, and it's going to get me through this gig, which is the be-all and end-all situation in this respect. As long as it gets me through, as long as it sounds great and keeps out of people's way and is not taking up too much space on the stage, that's all you can ask for. So, let's see how it sounds. Cheers guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you next week for another episode of Friday Fretworks. Cheers guys, take care.